On the night of January 31st, 1982, Kathleen McCormick Durst vanished without a trace. According to her husband, Robert Durst, Kathie had arrived at their apartment in Manhattan that night. He had driven her from their home in South Salem, New York, to a Westchester train station where she would take the 9:15 p.m. train home. And he had even talked to her on the phone at approximately 11 p.m. after she had arrived at their apartment. According to the superintendent of her school, Kathie had called in sick on February 1st, and both a doorman and the building superintendent of the couple's apartment claimed to have seen her that day. But investigations have revealed that the call to the school might not have been from Kathie. In addition, the doorman only saw Kathie from behind, and this was from half a block away. More importantly, Durst's private investigator learned that the doorman might not even have been working that night. So where is Kathie McCormick Durst? What happened to her? Did she run away with a man like some suggested? Or was she a victim of foul play? Join us as we take a deeper look into Kathie Durst's life to find out what most likely happened. Who is Kathleen McCormick Durst? Kathleen Kathie McCormick was born on June 15, 1952. She was the youngest of 5 siblings. Her family was close-knit, and because money was tight, Kathie held part-time jobs to help out. After graduation from high school, Kathie moved to New York City and got a job as a dental assistant. She also earned money occasionally from working at Saks Fifth Avenue. Though she was living free and independent, she didn't have a lot of money to spare. One Sunday afternoon in 1971, Kathie was invited by a friend to a party, and that's when she met her husband, Robert Bob Durst. She was 19, he was 28. She was from Long Island, and he was from the Upper East Side. The gap between them was wide, but it was love at first sight for both of them. With just 2 dates, Bob was able to convince Kathie to join him in Middlebury, Vermont, where he had a health food store called All Good Things. She moved in with him in January 1972. By the end of the year, Bob was tired of running the store and sold it. After traveling to various places in the US, the couple got married in 1973 and settled in Manhattan. They regularly went out, meeting up with friends, attending prestigious events, and partying in places like Studio 54. Bob would also take Kathie on vacations in Europe, Cancun, Hong Kong, etc. Things seemed to be going great for the couple until Kathie started looking for her own path in life. Bob was working at the Durst organization, and she was just along for the ride. So in the fall of 1974, she started studying nursing at the Western Connecticut State College. Kathie excelled in her studies, getting the highest grades in her class. She made friends of her own and was very happy with her life. Unfortunately, she was the only one. Bob didn't seem to be fully supportive of Kathie's studies. He moved them back from the suburbs to Manhattan, forcing Kathie to transfer to New York University. Though she still made it to the dean's list in NYU, she was saddened by the move. She decided to move back to Western Connecticut for her 3rd year in the nursing program. In the summer of 1975, Kathie bought a 1-bedroom stone cottage on Lake Truesdale in South Salem, New York, near the school. Because she felt guilty for abandoning Bob for her studies, Kathie tried to make up for it by giving in to many of his demands. But things started turning for the worse. In February 1976, Kathie found out that she was pregnant. Bob was angry and demanded that she get an abortion. He reminded her that he didn't want to become a father, something that he had already told her before. If she decided to have the baby, then Bob would divorce her. The abortion was the beginning of the end for Kathie. Just a couple of months later, she discovered that Bob was having an affair. Bob didn't deny it. In fact, he even admitted that he would change the look of the apartment to make it seem that he was single. In the summer of the same year, Douglas, Bob's younger brother, informed Kathie that Bob was embezzling funds from the family business. When she confronted him about it, he denied everything. However, Kathie later found business checks in his briefcase that he intended to deposit into his own account. She threatened to leave him if he didn't stop. Kathie graduated in July 1978 and furthered her studies by applying for medical school at Albert Einstein College of Medicine in the Bronx. While she was busy attending classes and studying at night, Bob was out with friends. He also continued seeing other women, going on double dates with his friend Nick Chavin. Despite the affairs and the embezzling, the couple remained married. The one-storybook romance had become a nightmare, especially for Kathie. According to friends and family, Bob was physically abusive. He would slap or hit her during their arguments. He would also embarrass her in front of her friends, even going so far as to kick them out of the apartment when they were visiting. By 1980, the couple was talking about living separately, though they did still see each other. When Kathie went to a divorce lawyer, Bob resisted, although he himself had mentioned this before in a letter he sent to Kathie. The pressures of medical school and the escalating violence in their marriage overwhelmed Kathie. She started using cocaine and often drank a glass of red wine before going to sleep at night. She also started having affairs of her own. Despite all of these mounting problems in their marriage and the possible pending divorce, the couple still went out together from time to time. However, Bob's acts of violence were no longer confined between the two of them. At a dinner with Kathie's family, Bob suddenly wanted to leave. He went out to warm up the car, but when he saw that Kathie was still talking to her family, he yanked her off the couch, grabbing some of her hair. This stunned her family, but Kathie assured them that everything was fine. That wasn't the only incident where Bob lashed out in public. A few months after the family dinner, a large group of the couple's friends were gathered at their apartment. Bob, along with some people in the group, went to a disco named Zenon, but Kathie remained in the apartment with a small group of friends. When Bob returned, he burst into the door and charged at Peter Schwartz, the only man in the room. He kicked Schwartz in the face, breaking his right orbital bone. Kathie had to take him to the hospital. They reported the incident to the police. It was during this time that Kathie confided to a friend, Gilbert Najami, that she wanted a divorce. However, she was afraid of leaving empty-handed. Her tumultuous marriage was taking a toll on Kathie, causing her to repeatedly miss rotations in clinics assigned by her school. Fortunately, she was able to make up for this by the end of 1981, even getting glowing recommendations. However, the same couldn't be said for her marriage. One evening in September 1981, Ann Anderson Doyle found her neighbor Kathie on her terrace, pounding on the window while it rained. Kathie and Bob lived in the adjoining penthouse. Anderson Doyle stated that Kathie was wearing little pajamas while she cowered and sobbed in the rain. She was terrified of her husband, who had been threatening her all night. According to Kathie, Bob wanted her to sign papers that stated she wouldn't get any money after the divorce. On January 6, 1982, just weeks before Kathie disappeared, she went to the emergency room of Jacobi Hospital. She had contusions on the left side of her face and head. Though she didn't tell the doctor what happened, he testified that the injuries were consistent with being punched or slapped in the face. Kathie's classmates also witnessed the injuries on her face. They encouraged her to leave him and never return. She replied that she was already staying in a safe place. Kathie also confided in several of her friends that if anything were to happen to her, don't let Bob get away with it. On January 25th, Kathie contacted the property manager of their apartment building, Karen Minatello. She asked if there were other apartments available in the building. Though hesitant, Kathie eventually told Minatello that she wanted to get away from Bob. Aside from looking for apartments, Kathie was also busy with preparing for graduation and applying to different residency programs. She was just months away from finishing medical school. On the last weekend of January, the couple drove to their stone cottage on Lake Truesdale in South Salem, New York. On Sunday, the 31st, Kathie suddenly appeared at her friend Gilbert Najami's home in Newtown, Connecticut, which was 27 miles away. Gilbert was just about to have dinner with her parents, her sister Fadwa, and another couple. Gilbert took her to the kitchen to talk. According to Fadwa, Kathie was visibly upset. She was talking fast and seemed at a loss on what she should do. It looked like something bad had happened between Rob and her. While there, Kathie talked on the phone with Peter Schwartz. She learned that the criminal case against Bob had been dropped and Schwartz had settled his civil lawsuit. She felt that this move had lessened her leverage against Bob if she were to file for divorce. A little later, Kathie was back on the phone. This time she was talking to Bob. Fadwa couldn't hear what Bob said, but based on what Kathie was saying, he wanted her to come home. Kathie agreed and told Bob that she loved him. Once back home, Bob stated that he had a pushing-shoving argument with Kathie. Afterwards, Kathie wanted to take the car and drive back to Manhattan. She had a clinic rotation the next day, but Bob refused because he would be left in South Salem without a car. According to Bob, he drove Kathie to the Katona station to catch the 9:15 p.m. train home, and that was the last time he saw her, though he did admit to speaking to her over the phone that night at approximately 11 p.m. Bob told the authorities that he had called Kathie from a payphone near their cottage while he walked the dog. However, the nearest phone was 3 miles away on a dirt road, and a snowstorm hit that area that evening. Bob also stated that he had dropped by a neighbor's home for a drink after he made the call, but the neighbor denied ever seeing him that night. More importantly, the neighbor claimed that they had seen a blue light shining through the basement windows of the Durst's cottage the next night. Shortly after that fateful day, Gilbert started becoming concerned when Kathie failed to meet her at the Lion's Gate as they had agreed. Gilbert reported Kathie missing to the authorities for several days when she was unable to reach her. Robert, on the other hand, didn't file a report until February 5th, when one of the deans of the Albert Einstein College of Medicine informed him that Kathie had not been in any of her classes all week. The school claimed that they had received a call from a woman identifying herself as Kathie on February 1st, informing them that she wouldn't be able to attend class because she was sick. But that was the last time they heard from her. According to the building superintendent, Bob threw out most of Kathie's belongings shortly after she disappeared. He also started looking for a new tenant for their apartment. Gilbert, on the other hand, took her sister and broke into the couple's cottage in South Salem during the week that Kathie disappeared. She reported herself to the police and asked them to send someone to the cottage. However, the police didn't send anyone to the location. Inside the cottage, the sisters found Kathie's unopened mail tossed into the garbage. According to Bob, Kathie was wearing brown suede boots and a cable-knit sweater when he dropped her off at the station. However, the sisters found these pieces of clothing in Kathie's closet. They also found trash bags stuffed inside a floor-to-ceiling closet located in the dining room, but they didn't dare open them. Because of Kathie's last words to her, Gilbert believed that something bad had happened to Kathie, so she would rummage through the trash at the Durst's cottage once a week. She found some of Kathie's belongings had been tossed away, along with some handwritten notes of Robert's. One of the notes said, "Town, dump, bridge, dig, boat, other, shovel, car or truck rental." Because Bob and some witnesses had claimed that Kathie had arrived in Manhattan, the investigation into her disappearance was focused in the city. They never conducted a search of the South Salem cottage. Instead, they believed that Kathie had left on her own to escape her bad marriage. If you have watched The Jinx on HBO, or simply Googled the name Robert Durst, then you probably already know that the theory that most people believe in is that Bob killed Kathie. But let's play devil's advocate for a little bit. Is it possible that Kathie had run away and started a new life? That was the tone set by Bob and his best friend Susan Berman when news of Kathie's disappearance made it to the press. Kathie does cocaine. She has affairs. She is unreliable, always missing classes. Berman, a well-known author, was considered a credible source. She had known Kathie, and all of these statements were facts, so their explanation did seem plausible. However, Kathie had already consulted with a divorce lawyer. She had waited and endured for so long because she wanted to get a settlement from Bob. She didn't want to walk away with nothing. In addition, she was about to graduate. She had dreamed of becoming a doctor since she was young. Why would she suddenly walk away from her life when she was just about to get it back on track? Her family and friends refused to believe Bob and Susan's explanation for Kathie's disappearance. They found her diary, which contained entries detailing Bob's violent tendencies and the crumbling of their marriage. Notes she sent to her lawyer showed the same. More importantly, Kathie was extremely close to her family. She would never leave without letting at least her mother know where she was going. But if Kathie didn't run away, then where is she? The only possible explanation is foul play. And the main suspect is Bob. Here's what we think most likely happened. Bob was the last person to see Kathie alive. There is no proof that she ever got on the train that night. In addition, Bob made several erroneous statements about his movements that day. He didn't place a call to her like he said. He didn't visit the neighbors. But the neighbors saw his basement lights on the following night. That's not all. Bob is the only one with a motive. Kathie was planning on divorcing him. She had evidence of his abuse and his infidelity. She wasn't going to leave him quietly. In fact, Bob even admitted that they had a pushing, shoving argument that night. It's possible that the argument turned deadly. The housekeeper that cleaned the couple's South Salem cottage had told the police that she found a small amount of blood on the dishwasher. She also told police that Bob had ordered her to throw away Kathie's personal items after Kathie had disappeared. All of the circumstantial evidence is pointing to Bob, but that's not the nail in the coffin. In the HBO documentary series The Jinx, The Life and Deaths of Robert Durst, Bob made a damning confession. While in the bathroom, he was caught on mic saying,
"What the hell did I do? Killed them all, of course."
He also muttered to himself,
"There it is. You're caught."
But how did he do it? Though Bob's a notorious liar, he does tell the truth sometimes. And his statement to the police was that he had a pushing, shoving argument with Kathie that day before he drove her to the station. It's possible that this physical fight caused Kathie's death. She could have fallen and hit her head, or he could have strangled her to death. Once she was dead, he had to get rid of the body. While there are many ways to dump a body, the one we lean towards to the most is dismemberment. Bob was charged for murdering his neighbor, dismembering his body, and throwing the pieces into a body of water in October 2001. It's possible that he had done the same to Kathie. As for where he dumped the remains, phone records show that Bob made collect calls to his family's business from Ship Bottom, New Jersey, shortly after Kathie disappeared. Coupled with the words on the notes Bob had written, Kathie's remains are most likely somewhere in Pine Barrens, New Jersey, a place where bodies killed by the mob have often been found. In 2021, more than 40 years after Kathie went missing, Bob was finally charged with her murder. Unfortunately, Bob died in January 2022 before he could be tried in court. To this day, we still do not know how Kathie died and what happened to her body. With Bob dead, it will forever remain a mystery. If you love our content and want to support the channel, feel free to check our web shop where you can find exclusive true crime merch brought to you by Bad Things.